Good morning. Of course, it is very hard for me to follow Rumi and Judith. But to put it in perspective, I believe, as Alex said, in the morning we want to create frameworks, how to see the world, how to see ourselves, how to see others, and then interpret it, codify it, and actualize it. So if I were you, I would follow each presentation with this string attached to it, how the theoretical foundations and practical implications can actually yield to what is called peace. Do you know, I noticed now in an American psychologist journal that now we have something which is called peace psychology. That the people have recognized that no matter what we do, how we feel, individually and collectively, we are yearning after peace. The peace has many components. I am only trying to confuse you by giving you some of the components that you all know, but maybe you have to tie it together. I do this based on the experiences that I have had and also the researchers that are available outside. And in order to facilitate that, I have brought some works that perhaps you can use and do. Do you know everybody in the world believes that there are crises? This is one of the famous works which talks about crisis in individual, crisis in the family, crisis in the community, and global crisis. When you look at crisis, you should think always in a dialectical pattern. For every negative force, there is a complementary positive force. It is very interesting that a Russian writer, calls 20th century a century of crisis. And at the same time, a person such as Abdul-Wahab calls it the century of light. And the paradigm between the two, he believes, sooner or later proclaims universal peace. That is to say, that perhaps there is crisis, but the role is not to see crisis. It's to understand crisis, to relate to crisis, but to go beyond. And what is my understanding of poet by Rumi is to go beyond. Never get stuck on where you are, because where you are is what has limited you. So think about what you potentially could be. In that regard, there is a very famous work by Habib. Talks about two things that have divided humanity. And there are two things that are obstacles to peace: religion and politics. Of course, when you read this book, based on the evidences, you cannot disagree with him, but you say again, okay, what is the other side? Because everything has other side. For that matter, I introduce to you one of the most influential works of all time, Religion Within the Limits of Reason Alone, by Immanuel Kant. Kant is perhaps someone that you never can even think rationally if you are not familiar with him. Very powerful person. He says politics is important, perpetual peace is possible, is attainable, if and only if religion and politics are used in a way that they are considered as a means, not the end. The end is humanity. The end is the well-being of individual, community, and the world. Therefore, when your religion becomes your ultimate to the point that you can create division, you can create borders, Kant says that is where this book has meaning. When religion defines you rather than becomes a means that you can define yourself. When religion shapes you rather than becomes a framework that you can discover your own self. Do you see how this dialectical pattern works? To this end, again, I recommend to you read Kant political writings. The reason that I am pointing Kant, because I do not know of any political system in the world after him that somehow has not been influenced by him. Either you have to agree with him or disagree, but he makes a point. If I can say something that Alex hates me, that means I have something to say, because I have raised some emotion in him. But now it is an opportunity for him to deal with the emotion. Do you see that? So the calamity is providence, as Baha'u'llah says, because it provides opportunity for growth. When the things go well, you have to wonder, what is the other side of the story? Now, another very important person that has influenced my life is Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein, you know that he's a peace activist, he's a scientist, and he redefined religion, redefined politics, redefined science, consider all of them as a means, not the end. He believed there is possibility for peace if and only if human mind and heart and soul understand that the peace is not something outside first. I have to have peace within me first. Because if I do not have peace within me, no matter what, I never can see the world as peaceful. This perhaps is what influenced him, the statement of Gandhi, which Judith referred to. Be the change that you like to see outside. He says this is the only thing that can create peace. Last two, and then I summarize. There is a person by the name of Maslow, Abraham Maslow. If you are a Rumi lover, read it. If you are a positive psychology, read it. He believes, rightly, that the problem of humankind has been because he has short himself to the low price. He has considered himself to be a tiny creature, considered himself to be a robot, considered himself to be an ant that does things but does not reflect. But if you look at human self you will see that within us there is a kingdom, there is a world which is much further than what you imagine. He believed, very powerful psychologist, that the only way to create peace is to first experience peace. Because you can know something, you can believe in something, you can advocate something, you can teach something, but you may not experience that thing. He believed, rightly, that the peak experience that you have of peace is only possible when you go outside of this cage of lower self. When you look at self, capital S, as the cosmos, the world as a whole, then you see a system in which you are a part of it. Then whatever you do to hurt others, you will consider it a hurt to yourself, hurt to the world. So the lesson that he teaches is, don't talk about peace only. It's good to talk about it, but experience it. And you never can experience it, according to this very influential work by Peter Russell, The Global Brain. You never can experience peace if you define your own self as a separate self. If you are separate, if you are Armenian, if you are Persian, if you are American, if you are Muslim, you are Baha'i, or whatever. If these are what defines you, then peace is imaginable, but is not reachable. Why? Because these are all frames that you are defining yourself and are external. You have to define yourself in terms of internal reality, something that time and space cannot take it away. Your reality is not your gender. Your reality is not how you feel based on your physical appearances. So to make it concrete, reality of a person has to be first defined. That is the key issue. Is the reality of person his gender, his class, his nationality, his religion, his color? If the answer to all of these questions is yes, then you never can attain peace. Because then no matter what, if you are black, black is superior to white, no matter how much you say otherwise. Because that was the point of orientation. But if you say the reality of man is not the gender, is not the color, is not the religion, is not the philosophy, rather your nobility within you, which is God-like reality, that is what defines us. And he believes, along with many others, three concepts: peace, unity, justice, are interrelated to each other. But all of them has to be experienced first individually. This is why all of these people believe if you want to have a world which is peaceful, rather than work on ideology, your religion, your political system work on three levels of individual, community, institution to create an environment for an individual to promote its potential, and it allows the potentials of others to become explored. I will be a part of a peace movement if I know that I am not being dominated, if I know that my love for another human being is not based on my fear from hell or for my love for heaven. My heaven will be the peace inside and creating the peace outside. Then and only then your ideology matters. Only the ideology which helps me to be unified is that ideology which is your religion, it can be your perpetual religion, and so forth. So, to summarize it, humanism and positive psychology seems to be contribute to peace psychology. I repeat, positive psychology meaning let consultation and compassion take the place of dominance and control. Let every individual share his value, his feelings, and you agree that even if you disagree with the person, that person has something to offer. That is positive psychology. Another sign of a humanistic psychology is that we are a system. We are all like one body, if you will. And each member of human race, independent of where they come from, are the different organs of the same body. If I come to the level that your pain becomes my pain, not based on sympathy, rather empathy. Because when I have sympathy for you, I feel sorry for you. When I have empathy for you, your pain is my pain. And even go beyond. Your reality is not your pain or your pleasures. Your reality is transformative factor, which some people call your soul, your mind, your heart, and others. That is one concept. Another thing to watch, the concept of synergy. In order to create peace, the term synergy has different implications in different fields. Synergy simply means working together. When things do not work together, the contribution to the universal environment for peace becomes lower. This is why we have a society which is a low synergy society. The people have a lot of activities, but none of them really works towards the same collaboration. Now, there is a term by Carl Jung, synchronicity. Synchronicity means things work together in a synergic environment. None of them really the cause of another, but all of them help one another in order to achieve a common cause. Another thing, justice is very important. I want to leave this topic to my beloved friend John and my dear esteemed friend Ali Nayeri to explore, but pay attention justice and equity are important. But I never can be just to you. And if I say I'm just to you, I'm lying. If I first experience justice in myself. Justice doesn't mean me. Justice means see with your own eyes, hear with your own ears, do your own individual research, and consider the well-being of the universe, and then act. That is called individual justice. Then you do not have to listen to the clergy to tell you what is just. If the clergy is a good clergy, leaves you to think for your own. Do you see that? I want to continue with the last statement. One of the biggest contributors to justice is enlightenment. Because if we are not enlightened, we can live in a peaceful society, but we will become actually the victim. What is enlightenment? Kant wrote a lot about it. I do not know of any profound writers that didn't consider enlightenment as a source. What is enlightenment? You look at the work of Plato, Apology, when in the words of Socrates, enlightenment is when I know my own self and know my own grave, and I can come out of that grave. Enlightenment means that I recognize that the reason I am ignorant is because I have created self-imposed layer upon myself. In the degree that I can tear those barriers, I become enlightened. So enlightenment is to first recognize my own limitation and recognize what have been contributing to my limitation. It can be my ideology, it can be my culture, it can be my training, but anything that has limited me to become a person, to become who I could really be, that is called enlightenment. They say, unless humanity become enlightened, peace, even if God establishes on the earth, is not going to be useful. Because unless I am enlightened, how can I see the peace? Last thing is, be again the source that tries to bring unconscious to conscious. The degree that we make unconscious conscious, we create perpetual peace. Because majority of the wars, majority of mental disorders that we have, I use it in a general term, not clinical term, is because that we are fighting the forces of unconscious. Unconscious, subconscious, the degree that it becomes conscious, the closer we become to the peace. Thank you. We are not suggesting that you dislike that you are white or black or male or female or Persian or American. I'm not suggesting that you introduce yourself as I am a Persian Muslim. This is not what we are saying. What we are saying is this thing does not define you. What do you mean? You are more than what your ideology and belief system is. You are nobler than what your nationality is. Because if you take the nationality means I am Iranian, but that doesn't mean that I am better than non-Iranian. because on the other side of a border, there is something which relates me to the next person, which is humanism, which is our soul.
It's not, I don't think it's about being better, but it can be about being different.
Of course, diversity is a key issue in order to maintain unity. We do not say that people should be the same. We say underneath of these diversified features, there is a unified stream. We are a spiritual. A spiritual doesn't mean necessarily religious. A spiritual means we value human values. And our religion, whatever it is, we respect it. I respect your religion for whatever you are, as long as your religion doesn't create a framework to judge me, to consider me inferior, or consider me superior. What I mentioned was, it is okay to say I am Persian, but it will be damaging if I do everything for the humanity as long as it benefits only Persian. If you do it, we call it nationalism. This is why love of one's country is okay, is natural. But if that love becomes so extreme that you have to hurt another nation, no, it's not. Because what is a common is humanism. You are a female, that's right. But if you are a female, that means you are inferior or superior to man. That is what is the problem. But if I'm female and you are a male, and we are both complementary factors of the same reality, that is good. So as you can see, Anita, I encourage to have identity. Because if you do not have identity, then you cannot relate to others. I have to be myself before I can relate to you. But who is myself is what I'm talking about. Is that these selves that separates you or the self that unifies you? Make sense? But you have a very good point. Thank you. One more question and then we are done, I think. Yes, sir.
I was wondering if you could elaborate on, you were mentioning how political systems can become in the way of forming peace. So when we have political systems that ignore the needs of the individual, and we need, in order to have peace, we need to be at peace as ourselves, as an individual, how do we find the balance in order to create a system where the individual can find their peace without being in battle with political systems here domestically and internationally?
See, I want to do not transgress my limit. As I see Ali is coming and then John is coming and these people will answer that question. But see, I personally think leaders are a reflection of individuals. I believe the more enlightened the person is, the better choices he makes in his election. Therefore, institutions that we have created globally is the sign of how immature we are as an individual. That is to say, of course, if you ask me, what is the aim of religion? What is the aim of science? What is the aim of political system? I say only to provide environment for education. Institutions are environmental variables, not controlling variables. If you consider education, see, we have a lot of educators in this room. Education means what? To get a degree, Dr. Habib Riazati, very good, very good. And then you pride over it, And then if Habib Riazati is a peasant, then you think otherwise because he's not a doctor. Then you have to ask yourself, what is education? Is the education is to create external reality, or education is an environment to draw out the hidden potentials of individuals? What am I suggesting is that I try to link individual, community, and institution to work collaboratively. But at the heart of all of these triangle is individual. The more individual becomes educated, enlightened, the better choices it makes. Then you do not live in a society that a religious leader tries to make the ideology to become so dominating that you lose your own vitality as an individual. So what am I saying is, power should be redefined. Power, rather than as a means to control, should be a means to serve. And each one of us who serve in one institution or another, this is an institution. Anything that provides an environment that you influence thoughts is an institution. Therefore, if I use this podium to enable you, to empower you, then I have educated you. Then when you go out of here, you are going to look twice at the leaders that are governing you. Because now you have become enlightened, hopefully. Do you see that? So, if I understood you correctly, we are the one who make the politics. Do not blame leaders. Leaders are the appointees of the human consciousness. Try to, when you vote in November, in December, whenever you vote, for whatever organization you vote, this vote should not mean some people to run the system. Who can best combine the qualifications that I, as an individual, can become a better, peaceful member of community? Do you see that? Then the whole leadership role shall change.